in your first year with the Dolphins, you worked with Reed Sinnett, the quarterback. And I wanted to see if you could speak a little bit about him and about the process at the time for him not staying. He was the quarterback last season for the Bravos here, so he's kind of a big name. And if he met with the squad or something.
No, I knew my first question was going to be about Reed. That was sarcastic. So he did a great job in my brief time with him. One of the things about the quarterback position is it's pretty difficult to have a chair on the team because there's a starting quarterback and then there's a lot of good throwers out there, and you only a lot of times keep two quarterbacks on your roster. So he did a great job for us. And the reason why he had the opportunity was because of his game, and some of which was developed here, and did a great job. I think he was one of the guys that unfortunately you have to let go when your rosters get closer to the regular season, but did a great job for us, and is fully capable of playing the quarterback position in the right situation.
Thank you. In lieu of Barry being here, I'll ask the injury questions. What can you tell us about the game statuses of Chop Robinson, if he has cleared concussion protocol, and Abram Brewer, Russell Douglas?
So I would say that first of all, Chop is cleared definitively, and then Rasul, he's probably gonna be more along the lines of questionable. We have to continue to have some growth today, and no setbacks. And then Brew, I would say I'm aggressively optimistic. Yeah.
Hey, Mike. I want to ask you about Jalen Waddle's development progression. Obviously, losing Tyreek is not easy for any team, but Jalen's put up decent numbers with the exception of one game. One, what kind of growth do you see from his game? And two, he doesn't have much of an ego for a receiver, which I'm sure is quite unique considering the nature of the position.
Yeah, so I would say that it's been a pretty steady progression in the details of Waddle's game. And I think that gave him an opportunity that when, we had some, potential targets lost, with some injuries, that opportunity, hit him at a great time in where his development already was. So, I think it was more of the adversity of the injuries was an extra opportunity that he just so happened to be completely ready for his game in terms of the extra attention defensively and necessitating if your number one receiver and quarterback aren't on the same page from a timing perspective, you're probably going to be mediocre at best. So for us to produce on offense, they need to be not only on the same page, but executing in a high fashion. So I think Jalen Waddle, knew if given the opportunity, he can put up whatever numbers that the game allows for. I think he's with extra attention defensively, he's found a way to exceed or maximize the opportunities he does get as well. It's not just getting more opportunities, but he's getting extra yardage after the catch with extra attention on him. So I think that's vitally important for a one receiver when the post player in single safety is going to lean to your side so that you can have extra help on the man-to-man player, and you still get open and get extra yards with that extra attention. It's monumental. And yeah, I think you when you have a receiver as talented as him, and he is a football player, those are why he's so important to me and this team, because football players win. There's really good receivers that don't participate in their off-ball production plays. So if you want to be a good running team, everybody has to block, including the receivers. If you want to win games against good opponents, or win games down the stretch of the season, there's you need to be able to execute, and it's not just catching the ball or being able to get open. Football is a game of 11 players each and every play, and every play matters and can create consequences that change the game at any point. If Waddle isn't straining on those two long run plays, they're not long run plays. They're 15-yarders, not a 59 and a 30-yarder. So that it's very important, and he's doing a great job, and look forward to him getting continued opportunities to show off what he's worked on.
Yeah. Hi, Coach. I want to ask you about another key player for you this season, Devon Achane. He's having maybe the best season of his short career, especially with Tyreek Hill out. How do you see Achane's growth and his importance of the team in the running game?
Well, I think it's important to him to continue to get better and develop, because he has high aspirations himself for a career. And in that, he's finding ways to do what he does best more often. He's really good at having a defender in front of him that's trying to tackle him, and in a split second, finding the edge of a tackler and breaking the tackle. For a smaller guy, he breaks a lot of tackles because of that. And he's doing that more often, utilizing that ability more often, and getting more production in tight quarter situations. I think, case in point, the long touchdown, his longest touchdown last week. He made a defender miss in the A gap right at the line of scrimmage, and accelerated through the second level where the linebackers are in tight quarter situations, wasted no movement, and made Jordan Poyer miss to get a score. Those are all that play kind of embodies his development. He's been capable of doing something like that, but that particular play, making two people miss and taking it to the house, there's very few running backs that can do that, and he's trying to do it on the regular. So he's doing a good job, but I think he's tied to the offensive line in a unique way. They play cards all the time. They're pretty tight, and those guys are straining for that extra inch, which is also making a huge difference as well.
Mike, I actually was going to ask you a little bit about Achane. Let me change gears slightly and look at it from the perspective you've had so much success the past few weeks incorporating Achane as a receiver, as a running back in the offense. I wonder, what have you learned about maybe the team's identity moving forward with the success you've had with Achane, and how do you balance that with not wanting to wear out a back like Devon?
Yeah, I think you're kind of seeing live speed, our identity create itself, by and large. You adjust with injuries, and having an offensive lineman play tight end at times, having different players and on the field and running the ball in different personnel packages. You kind of create your own identity, which is something I think that every team needs to do each and every year. And I think you try to play to the skill set of your players, and I think you get more information from just the fact that I think this year he's had a couple 20 carry games, and you learn on the fly how his body and how he responds to that. I think one of the things that is the saving grace for Devon is that he doesn't take hits on directly very often. Kind of speaking to how he finds edges of the defenders. He's not too banged up after games because of his ability to take on tacklers in a aggressive way, and I think, you are always aware of someone wearing someone down, because you can live speed see if they're as fast as they normally are. I've always looked at the running back position as it's not one man's position. A case in point, we feel very good and have some playmakers at that position with Ollie and Jalen, and they will, continue to be involved. But, when you can feel that Devon is at his best, avoiding tacklers, you try to get him the ball more until you see a dip in how he's making defenders miss. And that's the great challenge of calling plays for a team that has multiple talented running backs.
Here, Coach, I want to stick to the running game. You rank 9th in the league in yards per attempt, but you are the 22nd in attempts. Do you feel you've been a little bit pass happy early in some games this season? The other day you destroyed the Bills through the running game. I want to know about that. And the second question, if possible, is about your meeting yesterday with Simeone. He's the sheriff here. He's been off the charts successful in this organization. He's the main man in Atletico Madrid. You as a coach has the ultimate aspiration of being like a Simeone, a guy who can basically run one of the biggest organizations, in his case, in soccer. Thanks, Coach.
So, no, it's a great question, your first one. If you're having success at it, why don't you do it more? Like that. And, I think there's a lot that goes into being able to have that many rushing attempts in general. There's a lot that goes on in terms of complementary football. And if you have 3 drives in the first half, which I think a couple times we had at the beginning of the season. And on those drives, they're not extended drives. You don't get that many attempts. And if you're behind, there's always, by the fourth quarter, you don't get a game when you have the lead, you can on average have about 8 to 10 rushing attempts in the fourth quarter. If you're behind, it's significantly less when you're chasing points. So there's a lot of factors. I'm always very mindful and critical of myself to make sure that, I'm not rushing or getting impatient because there's, our starting point in our offense is forcing a defense to defend all of the vertical yards and horizontal yards, starting with the line of scrimmage. So you establish the run, then your fake run passes, or you're faking the run, and now you're displacing backers more, creating more open seams for bigger plays in the pass game. So you want to be high in rushing attempts, Generally, I've found when you're winning games or you're in the lead, that's where you can get close to being in the top third of the league in rushing attempts. But we'll continue to hope that there's an uptick in that ranking of rushing attempts, because that means that we're playing winning football in 3 phases. And then it's really cool to I'm well aware of this franchise, and Atletico is something I've grown up looking at it as a big organization. So anytime you get to spend some time with a coach, particularly one with all the successes that he's had, it's pretty cool just to it took probably 30 seconds maybe, and we started diving into the National Football League's salary cap. It's overwhelming because there's so many different, you can only forecast all the different problems that you're solving that are so unique, and whether that's how you train, how you handle your players, or how you assemble your roster. So I've been honored to have our team in this facility, and have just been treated so graciously. I was honored to get time to spend with him, and it made me even more mad at myself that I'm not fluent in Spanish.
Hi, Coach. Welcome to Spain. Focusing on the defensive side of the ball, and next Sunday, we should expect the same level than last week's against Buffalo, with the improvement in roof support, with players growing like Jordan Phillips and Kenneth Grant, creating turnovers, and the impact that a player like Juju Brents had?
Yeah, I think, ultimately when you're going through a season, the primary importance, to me, that I speak to everybody about is continued growth, because you want to be your best when your best is required, and you want to be your best in elimination games whenever those come, where you're trying to get in the playoffs. And I think we started the season, I think you couldn't be lower ranked in run defense at the start of the season, but we had very strong belief in the players we had, and the development that they could potentially have within the system if they continued to grow. So then when you have the growth and you have the results, I think it's us, like the fans, our expectation, we want to continue that and not have a step back. How do you do that? It's the littlest, most mundane details of football. Like, we have a huddle, and being able to be unified in the huddle and breaking together and getting aligned quickly, whether that's offense or defense, but particularly with defense. And then how that enables them to be in position to communicate with whoever they're working with, or setting the front and then making the secondary call, and that tempo and timing, the urgency before the snap, has really helped us play within the snap. And so what has our focus been? It's been on the little details that allowed that growth and for that performance, because we want to replicate that. And to do that, it takes a unified 11 that are very focused. And then it's the final layer of, you have to wake up on Sunday and make the choice to really expend yourself physically. You have to lay it all out there. You have to, defending the run is a mindset, along with, technique fundamentals. but you have to be prideful in it. I think our group has become prideful because it took a lot to get there, and so you try to be as protective as you can for that growth by the way you work each and every day.
Adrián Rodríguez Huber, Agencia F, coach. I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit more feedback about how was your conversation, if there was any, with Simeone. And also on Wednesday you told us you just arrived and you barely saw like your office, where your computer was, where the drinks are. Did you get any time to see more things around Madrid?
Well, unfortunately, I timed this press conference up poorly. Friday, this afternoon is my time. So I'm gonna jump in it. That's where I'll activate. You know, I was a history major in college, and there's a lot of history here. So I think I'll start with the gigantic park that's right by our hotel and work my way out from there. And then, you know, the conversation. You know, we were just starting practice, so we didn't get as much time as we'd like. But you know that like I said before, it's very odd to meet someone and get into the details of the National Football salary cap in like 30 seconds. But like you could tell both of our brains were turning with just eagerness of like wanting to learn and wanting to you know, just take advantage of the opportunity to, you know, how are you? There's always overlapping reasons why people are successful, even if it's a different sport. And so, you know, I think it was shorter than maybe we would have liked, but just we got into the conversation about the salary cap, and then how you know, how much that quarterbacks take up in the salary cap, and then he immediately was like, well, you know, there's not very many really good ones, and so that's a challenge in and of itself. And then we spoke a little bit. You know, he was very inquisitive about, you know, the how many people we have. Like, you know, there's a 53-man roster plus 16 practice squad people, so 69 people blows his mind. As it blows my mind how many games he has to prepare for. But we talked about that briefly, and then the challenges of getting good players around a good quarterback, and developing players, and then I had to run to go coach some people. So it was enthusiastic and energetic, and I wish it were a longer piece of time, because I mean, who knows where the conversation would have led, but I feel very fortunate to even spend the brief time with him, because he's arguably the best in the business in that role. So it was a pleasure for me, and I, again, wish I knew Spanish.
Hi, Coach. Nice to meet you. I'm Hector from High Sports TV. How do you manage the emotion of 53 men in the roster after two different games, like Bills and Ravens?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it's one of the challenges that is so cool about, you know, being a head coach. Is 53 individual personalities that you're trying to get to move in one direction. And on top of that, you know, you have a high desire for professionals to do well, and there's a lot of incentive. It is black and white experience. Winning's awesome and losing's terrible. And the unique thing about football is that you have 6 days between games. You know, so you have to sit on that result. And then you really have time to develop or fix or problem solve or evolve for the next game, or you can have a setback, just depending on where where people are at. So I think, for me, I try to, it starts with having a great relationship with the nucleus of captains and the leaders that I meet with every week, and then having a coaching staff that you can depend on so that you can try to attack and find solutions to all the problems that maybe individuals are having, and then get everyone focused on the main, most important things. Add on top of that, you get the wonderful experience as a team to come to another country. That's all well and good, but the focus has to be on the football, because on Sunday the focus will be on the football, and that product is directly relates to what you're doing each and every day with all your 53 plus 16. So I think in football the numbers are large, and that is a challenge, but it's all the more important that you have a collective group of individuals that are focused on winning and focused on the team, and then you have a chance to move in one direction.